Sai Ram, dear listeners, and greetings from Prashanthi Nilayam. I am happy to be with you again, and I do hope you liked what I offered last time. In case you have forgotten, let me remind you, I made some introductory remarks about Valmiki's Ramayana and how Valmiki came to write that great epic. Before I proceed further, let me try and put at rest the reservations some devotees might have about discussing Valmiki's Ramayana, when Swami himself has discoursed on the Ramayana several times. Yes, Swami has talked about the Ramayana many times, revealing several things not known before. At the same time, few are aware that Swami himself has talked about the Valmiki Ramayana several times, both in public and in private. As we go along, I am sure all of you would realize, as I did when I prepared these talks, that by revisiting Valmiki, we would get exposed to many beautiful details and nuances that we were not aware of earlier. Here, I must tell you that the Gita Press volumes that I relied on run to about 2000 pages in all. That is an awful lot, is it not? No wonder, because Valmiki is a veritable encyclopedia on so many things. Obviously, I could not cover all of that. That would require an entire lifetime. And having crossed more than 3/4 of my life, clearly I had to be more modest in my objective. Thus, I skipped a lot of the side stories and a lot of geography, botany and zoology as well that Valmiki wrote about. What then did I retain? That is simple. I tried my best to include all that is relevant to the main narrative, shades of cultural and spiritual practices of those times, all the critical dialogues and moods experienced by the various characters at various times, and of course, as much as possible of the subtle teachings that are scattered throughout. You would be amazed how much was still left after all the filtering that I did. And when I am through, I am sure at least some of you would agree that listening to this series has enabled you to learn many things you were not aware of before. With that caveat, let us now commence our journey into the Ramayana as bequeathed to us by sage Valmiki, starting with the Balakandam, which documents the incarnation of the Lord on earth in human form and the early years of the Rama avatar up to and including the time when he was united with Mother Sita, his consort, in holy marriage. Now, in the great land of India, there existed in ancient times, flanking the river Sarayu, a kingdom called Kosala, with its capital at Ayodhya. This kingdom was ruled by the famous Ikshvaku dynasty, founded by Ikshvaku, the son of Vaivasvata Manu, the first ruler of mankind. Such were the monarchs that ruled over this land that everything about the Kosala kingdom was absolutely praiseworthy, describable only in superlative terms. Its prosperity was no accident, since all its rulers were ideal monarchs, fully committed to Sathya and Dharma, and ever engaged in doing what was best for their subjects. In due course, an emperor named Dasaratha inherited the kingdom, who, by his strong commitment to the traditions of the Ikshvaku dynasty, soon came to be hailed as one of the preeminent rulers of Ayodhya. Dasaratha had all that one could ask for, including three principal queens, Kausalya, Sumitra and Kaikeyi. However, there was one thing missing, namely a male progeny. As years rolled by, Dasaratha became increasingly worried about the absence of a son who could inherit the kingdom and sustain the dynasty. Driven by this anxiety, he one day summoned his ministers and asked them what he should do in order to ensure that there was a heir to the throne. Responding in one voice, the ministers said, "O king, in such situations, it is customary to perform a very special Vedic ritual called the Ashwamedha Yagam. All of us are of the opinion that you should, without any delay, perform such a yagam." Accepting the advice without any hesitation, Dasaratha then ordered his ministers to forthwith make all the arrangements necessary in full consultation with the venerable and eminent sage Vasishtha, who was not only the wise elder who advised the rulers of the Kosala kingdom, but also acted as the personal priest and preceptor of the emperor. At this stage, Dasaratha's senior-most minister Sumantra whispered something into the ears of the emperor. He said, "Sire, long ago, sage Sanat Kumara foresaw all that is happening now. And in fact, he declared that this Ashwamedha Yagam would be presided over by sage Rishyasringa, as there was none more meritorious than him for this task." Sanat Kumara added that Rishyasringa would be born as the son of a Brahmin named Vibhandaka, growing up deep in the forest and leading a highly secluded life. Rishyasringa would be totally unaware of the world outside, keeping himself busy by serving his father. The kingdom of which the forest formed a part would have a king named Romapada. On account of the misdeeds of its ruler, the entire kingdom would face many hardships, including a severe drought. Seeking some means of alleviating the sufferings of his people, Romapada would then consult wise men and, acting on their advice, would try to bring Rishyasringa to his court and offer his daughter in marriage. The problem now was how to bring Rishyasringa to the court. None of the Brahmins who acted as counselors to the king dared to approach sage Vibhandaka, for they knew very well how fiercely the sage protected his privacy. They would recommend instead that charming damsels bearing fruits and various other gifts must be sent to attract the attention of Rishyasringa. Sumantra continued, King Romapada would do exactly that. And when Rishyasringa sees woman for the first time in his life, he would become wonderstruck. He would then respond favorably to the invitation of the damsels to visit the royal court. And the moment Rishyasringa steps into the court, the heavens would burst forth and pour rain on the parched land. Mission accomplished, the king would then offer his daughter in marriage. After narrating in this manner all that had been foretold, Sumantra added, Your Majesty, everything that sage Sanat Kumara foretold has happened exactly the way he had predicted. What remains is for the last part of the sage's prediction to come true. The sage had said that at an appropriate time, this Rishyasringa would preside over the Ashwamedha Yagam that the Emperor of Ayodhya would perform for the continuation of the Ikshvaku dynasty. Sire, that moment has arrived, and I thought I should bring all this to your notice without any further delay. Dasaratha was thrilled to hear that Sage Sanat Kumara had already foreseen all that was to happen much later, and he then sought the consent of sage Vasishtha for approaching Rishishringa. Vasishtha, gifted as he was to know all about the past, the present and the future, readily gave his blessings. Accompanied by his queens and retinue, Dasaratha then immediately left for the court of Romapada, where Rishishringa lived. King Romapada was no stranger to Dasaratha, and the two were in fact good friends. Dasaratha was thus able to easily secure Ramapada's consent for Rishishringa and his wife Shanta to go to Ayodhya along with Dasaratha to conduct and preside over the rituals associated with the forthcoming Ashwamedha Yagam. And that was how Rishishringa and Shanta came to Ayodhya and began to spend some time there with Dasaratha. Now, yagas and yajnas, which roughly mean the same thing, or rituals that occupied a special place in the Vedic tradition, their broad goal being the prosperity of people at large. However, as the result of various interpretations as to what constituted the well-being of all, many different types of rituals came into existence, each with a specific purpose. For example, yagas were performed for the promotion of peace in the community, for the skies to open up and send rain that was badly needed for the crops, for the well-being of the kingdom, to gain progeny, etc. Since the sun was the main source of energy for all beings, every yagam was, in some manner or the other, a worship of the sun, with the sacred fire or Agni being considered as the representative of the sun. In practice, it boiled down to chanting various mantras while making various offerings to the sacred fire. Now, the Ashwamedha Yagam has basically two parts. The first of which involves sending a specially selected horse to go around the world, the interpretation of what constituted the world being flexible. The second part of the Ashwamedha Yagam began after the horse completed the prescribed journey, and it involved making various offerings to the sacred fire, invoking the blessings of the Almighty, and then making the prayers one wants fulfilled. The horse was in a sense a symbol of creation. Thus, its eye was taken to represent the sun, its head was considered as dawn, its back as heaven, its blood vessels to be the rivers, and so on. The yagam itself was supposed to be performed by Brahma, the creator. In practice, a specially chosen person would be designated to perform the yagam. In this case, Rishishringa was to be Brahma's proxy. There were prescribed periods for performing the yagam, and special preliminary rituals that involved sanctifying the horse had to be gone through before launching it on the task of circumnavigating the world. 1 year was the period allotted for the round trip of the horse, and while on its journey, a big contingent of people accompanied the horse to take care of the horse and also to protect it. The major part of the ritual involved offering oblations to the sacred fire, etc., and that began after the return of the horse. Spring arrived, and the time had come to start the proceedings. Accordingly, Dasaratha, offering his respectful salutations, formally requested sage Rishishringa to launch the preliminaries connected with the yagam. Rishishringa then said to Dasaratha, "O king, arrange now to send the ceremonial horse on its journey, and also start making preparations for conducting the rituals later when the horse returns." Thereupon, Dasaratha commanded Sumantra to summon all Vedic scholars and priests of the court and told them, "I am pleased to announce that making a prayer for progeny, I have decided to propitiate the Lord by performing the Aswamedha Yagam, which would be presided over by the eminent sage Rishyasringa. I request all of you to join and assist him as required. As commanded by the emperor, a horse was then ceremonially sent out to go around the world. It was also decided to perform, when the time came, all the subsequent rituals at a specially selected site on the northern bank of the Sarayu River. A year passed, and when spring arrived, it was time to get busy about the ritualistic part of the Yagam. Supervised by sage Vasishtha, a huge area situated on the banks of Sarayu was selected as the main venue, and in that location was built the Yaga Kundam, or the ceremonial pit for the sacred fire. The various other facilities required for a major event of this nature were also established. The Yagam was expected to be witnessed by thousands, including not only members of the court and the local population, but also royal visitors from various kingdoms, especially by kings who were personal friends of Emperor Dasaratha. Thus, living quarters for the various guests were constructed to suit their rank and status. In addition, servants' quarters, kitchens, and stables for the animals forming a part of the retinue of the honored guests were also provided for. As the time for the Yagam drew close and all the guests had arrived, the entire place became a beehive of activity. Meanwhile, the chosen horse returned safely, having completed its journey. On the appointed day, Dasaratha arrived with his 3 queens and the entire royal entourage, and the Yagam got underway with Rishyasringa presiding and playing the role of Brahma. With mantra or sacred hymns chanting in full swing, the entire place reverberated with holy sounds, and there was a sacred atmosphere hanging in the air. Even as events on earth were moving towards a climax where the Yagam ordered by Dasaratha was concerned, something remarkable was happening in the celestial world. The Devas, or the deities of heaven, meditated on Brahma the Creator, to whom they were all beholden. In one voice the Devas said to Brahma, "Lord, as you are well aware, by propitiating you a long time ago, the evil Rakshasa or demon Ravana is troubling all the worlds in creation. Incredibly mighty and unimaginably cruel, Ravana is puffed up with pride, and thanks to the boon granted by you to him, he appears to be beyond death, which in turn has encouraged him to become a terror to all, including us the Devas. He has harassed us enough, and in desperation we appeal to you to see that somehow this menace called Ravana is got rid of for all time." Brahma understood what the Devas were complaining about, and even as he was getting ready to respond, the Supreme Lord Vishnu appeared amidst the congregation. The Devas were immensely pleased with this unexpected appearance of the Supreme Lord, and recognizing his manifestation as an auspicious omen, now appealed directly to him. Touched by the appeal, the Almighty replied, "Now that you have conveyed your problem, stop worrying and leave everything to me. Is there anything more you wish to add? Do you, for example, have any thoughts about how Ravana should be annihilated? Should I incarnate with my natural form, or are there other possibilities? As the ever-omniscient one, the Lord of course always knows everything, but as a sign of his love, he often acts as if he does not know, giving others a chance to speak to him and make their prayers, which is precisely what he did on this occasion also. The Devas responded, "Dearest Lord, Ravana, while seeking the boon of immortality from Brahmadeva, this is the name by which Brahma the Creator was usually referred to by the Devas, sought that he be exempt from death at the hands of the Devas and the various other species and creatures. However, in his arrogance, Ravana omitted to seek a similar exemption in the case of humans. Responding with a smile, the Lord said, 'Very good. Now that you have indicated Ravana's vulnerability, I shall take birth on earth as the son of Dasaratha for the sake of annihilating Ravana.' So saying, the Lord vanished, sending the Devas into raptures. Brahma then addressed the Devas and said, 'By way of protecting us, our dear Lord is going to incarnate on earth taking a human form. When the time comes for him to fight Ravana, all of you must be there to render assistance. For this purpose, you must, with the help of the ladies of heaven, procreate and fill the world with your offsprings. Depending on whom you mate with, the offspring would take various animal forms, such as that of monkeys and bears. In reality, though, they would all be sons of gods of heaven, come down to earth to be with the Lord, while he executes his mission. By serving the avatar, or the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, these sons of the gods of heaven would all become blessed and earn the Lord's grace. Back on earth, the high point of the special ritual called Putra Kameshti, ritual meant for conferring progeny, was approaching, and sage Rishyasringa chanted the associated mantras with deep fervor. At that moment, there arose from the sacred fire to which various oblations were being offered a most effulgent form, bearing in his hands a golden vessel that contained payasam, a sweet pudding-like dish. Radiating a divine aura, this bearer of the golden vessel said, "O King, I have been sent by Brahma himself with a special message for you. He wants you to accept this golden vessel that I have brought, which contains divinely blessed payasam. Ask your queens to partake of this payasam, which is a divine gift, and you would soon be blessed with progeny, for which you have been yearning." Handing over the vessel containing the prasadam, the messenger of Brahma then vanished. Soon the rituals came to an end, and Dasaratha hastened to the private chambers where the queens resided, carrying with him the prasadam. To Kausalya, his first queen, Dasaratha gave 1/2 of the prasadam, after which he gave 1/4 portion to Sumitra, his second queen. 3/4 of the prasadam having thus been distributed, 1/4 of it was still remaining. 1/2 of what was left over he gave to his third queen, Kaikeyi. 1/8 portion of the gift received was still left over, and after pondering for a while, Dasaratha gave that leftover portion to Sumitra, who thus got 2 helpings. Why did Dasaratha do so? It would appear that some hidden hand was guiding him. Why that hidden hand acted in that manner would become evident later. Meanwhile, all the 3 queens were happy. As expected, they all conceived, and in due course 4 lovely princes were born. Kausalya was the first to deliver, her son dazzling one and all with an incredible aura that was truly divine. The second queen to deliver was Kaikeyi, the last and the youngest queen, following which Sumitra, the second among the principal queens of Dasaratha, delivered twins. On the 13th day after birth, the all-knowing sage Vasishtha named the princes performing with great dignity and grandeur all the mandated Vedic rituals. The eldest son of Dasaratha, born of Kausalya, was named Rama. The son born to Kaikeyi was then named Bharata, while the twins born to Sumitra were named Lakshmana and Shatrughna respectively. With the exception of the royal preceptor sage Vasishtha, no one, Dasaratha included, realized that the four princes were none other than four aspects of Lord Vishnu, in varying proportions of course, and incarnating in human form for a divine purpose. While the world looked upon the newborn as ideal princes, thanks to the amazing powers accumulated through his tapas, Vasishtha alone in that royal household was aware that the birth of the four princes was a part of an elaborate divine drama that would play out in the years to come. Meanwhile, back in heaven, there was understandable rejoicing that the Lord, in keeping with the promise made earlier, had actually taken birth on earth in human form as the first step in the long-awaited destruction of Ravana. In Ayodhya itself, there was much celebration since a heir to the throne had been born, and the continuation of the Ikshvaku race was thus assured. Years rolled by quickly, even as the four princes grew, mastering all the skills they were expected to, ranging from a full knowledge of the scriptures to the techniques of combat and governance. It was not that they excelled only in worldly as well as scriptural knowledge and the various skills expected of royalty. Where conduct and behavior was concerned, they were truly role models, and in every respect they were paragons of virtue. The love that the brothers had for each other was indescribable, and all the younger brothers literally worshipped Rama with matchless fervor. Particularly noteworthy was the special attachment Lakshmana had for Rama. Not for a moment could Rama be away from Lakshmana, and so it was between Bharata and Shatrughna, with Bharata being dearer to Shatrughna than his own life. These mystical bonds did not go unnoticed, and the exemplary behavior as well as the strong bond of unity among the four brothers made them very dear to the citizens of Ayodhya, almost without exception. One day, when the princes were roughly 14 years of age, sage Vishwamitra, famed for the vigorous tapas he had earlier performed and the powers acquired thereby, came to Ayodhya and announced himself to the guards at the palace gate. The news of the unexpected arrival of the great sage made Dasaratha both extremely happy and feel highly blessed as well. Accompanied by sage Vasishtha, Dasaratha rushed to receive sage Vishwamitra and welcomed him not only with all the courtesies normally due, but also with much love, warmth and deep reverence. The welcome formalities concluded, Dasaratha said most humbly, "O sage, blessed are we by your appearance in this court. I eagerly await the chance to serve you. Yours is just a command, and mine is to instantly obey your order to the letter." Smiling broadly, Vishwamitra replied, "O Emperor, the words you have spoken could have come only from a member of the famous Ikshvaku dynasty. Dasaratha, keeping certain holy and sacred objectives in view, I have decided to commence a most important yajna. Unfortunately, it's being rudely interfered with and frequently interrupted by two fearsome Rakshasas named Subahu and Maricha. In principle, I could, with the powers acquired by my tapas, doom them with just one curse. However, when one is engaged in performing sacred Vedic rituals, one is totally forbidden from dissipating one's spiritual powers by giving vent to anger and cursing. To successfully complete the yagam, I need help, which is why I have come to you. Just send your eldest son Rama with me, so that he can stand guard and protect the yagam while I complete it." Dasaratha was stunned, for he had not even dreamt that the venerable sage would make such a request. With tearful eyes he pleaded that Rama was a mere teenager with hardly any battle experience, and hence totally ill-suited and also ill-equipped for the task of dealing with powerful Rakshasas. Instead, he, Dasaratha, would personally come with his entire army and provide the required protection. Vishwamitra smiled and replied, "Dasaratha, I know exactly how you feel. But you must understand that Rama is no ordinary teenage prince. You are not aware of his extraordinary powers and capabilities, but I am. Moreover, there is a special reason why I am asking that he be sent. Try to understand me and do as I say." Overpowered by attachment, Dasaratha was hardly reassured and continued to plead, begging for the acceptance of the alternative solution he had suggested. He added, "O venerable sage, you are very well aware that Subahu and Maricha are no ordinary demons. They are extremely powerful and extraordinarily cunning. Once again, I repeat that by comparison, my dearest Rama is but a mere inexperienced teenager and is no match for them. Such being the case, how do you expect me to send Rama with you? I am afraid that would not be possible. On the other hand, I again declare emphatically that I am personally at your disposal, along with my entire army, I might add, quite willing and ready to protect your yagam in the fullest measure. Please accept this offer in lieu of sending an inexperienced young boy. With due respect to you, I submit that this is a better strategy for getting rid of those two deadly demons." Well, time is up, and that's all I can offer for this week. Do join us again next week so that we can resume from where we broke off just now. Thank you for listening, and God bless. Jai Sai Ram.